Hot Topic employees of Reddit. What are your horror stories? My high school GF worked there way back in the day. She said the worst part of the day was having to collect merchandise from the fitting rooms and cleaning the fitting rooms. Apparently, all sorts of nasty women would go in there and try on the panties, not use a liner, and just generally leave them all crusty and bad smelling. They would also leave pads and tampons all over. She said they had to throw away so much merchandise that was left in that condition. I feel like this may be a problem anywhere they sell clothes, but then again, Hot Topic may attract a different type of customer, so it might have happened more often. I worked for 2 years at my local Hot Topic, and the worst stories both involve the fitting room. Our fitting room used to be a self-service room in the back of the store with a red curtain in front of it. An employee noticed 4 feet in the room and opened it to find 2 people having sex in it and had to clean up the remnants. A second incident came when a smell wafted from the same room. It was later discovered that someone had actually taken a dump in the room when they went in to try on clothes. We ended up fitted the room with a galvanized piece of chain and a master lock to keep the curtain open. Luckily, shortly thereafter, we got a full store overhaul that put in actual fitting rooms. God, we had to guard the dressing room like a fortress. I had to prevent a teenage girl, and who I thought was her boyfriend, from going in there. I also told her she couldn't take the armful of thongs they'd picked out into the dressing room. She goes, "Daddy, will you hold my panties?" and hands them over, and then tells me he's my stepdad, but I call him Daddy. So then her 40-something method out mom wanders over to confirm that, yes, this teenage juggalo is her husband, that he is a few years older than her daughter, that they go to the same high school, and that she finds their whole dynamic adorable. Every time the girl called him Daddy, her mom would cackle and tell me she just loves her daddy. They have classes together at school, and she loves telling everyone she goes to school with her daddy. They do everything together. She loves doing stuff with her daddy. Shit almost made me go back to church. My current boss was a former store manager at a Hot Topic, and he told me that he caught one of his employees stealing a shirt he had stuffed into a Sonic cup. From then on out, everyone had to check bags and beverages for merchandise. A petite friend is currently a manager at one, and her issue is always a customer that become too often repeat customer obsessed with her or another female employee. Currently, it's a guy that swears they would have everything in common because he likes all the things in the store too, as if she curated it and now has to stay 500 feet from the store. Former employee. I worked a whole 3 months in summer, so all the kids were out and about. I was stocking Disney merchandise, and I couldn't help but notice a kid underneath one of our clearance racks. I heard some strange noise coming from there too, so I crouch under and look at the kid. He had a button, needle and all, in his mouth. I asked him where his parents were, and before I knew it, he swallowed the pin and ran out of the store. I couldn't leave and go search for the child, so I let security know about the button kid. Never knew what happened after that. I can't seem to forget Button Kid, though. Spent almost 5 years working at one in the early 2000s. Being in the Midwest, we had a ton of juggalos, but they were actually pretty nice people in general. I had a group of kids ask what I would do if they set some clothes on fire and flicked a lighter multiple times. We mostly got weirdos who wanted to bang in the dressing room or lifted up their shirts to ask me what gauge their nipple ring is. We had this one girl who came in weekly, and I don't think she was all there. She would sit at the listening station for way too long and then leave. One day, she sat down and put the headphones on. She had a plastic bag with her filled with empty glass bottles and peaches. Yes, the fruit. We noticed it was leaking onto the floor, but just let her do her thing. She put the headphones back and looked at her leaking bag. She had a mildly disappointed look on her face, but immediately looked at her watch and yelled, "I'm going to miss my bus." She ran out of the store and up to a trash can outside the store. She held the bag up high and yelled, "Peaches, meet your fate," threw the bag in the trash, and sprinted off. That job was weird. Former employee of a couple years in high school. I love that job. The biggest horror story that sticks out in my mind was this guy that would always come in with his kids. He was a huge ICP fan, and from the looks of it, he let his kids, both boys, they were, I'd guess, maybe 7 and 8 at the time, listen as well. They always had Hatchet Man stuff on and pretty bitchin' haircuts. They always misbehaved, just running around the store screaming, sometimes crashing into stuff, and the dad gave no fucks. He was often pretty rude to us in the store about not having specific merch or being out of stuff in his size. He was a large guy. I had and still have no business in what that guy does with his kids. But I always felt a little bad that there was a good chance they would end up in a bad way. Other than that reoccurring instance, for the most part, our store was really fun. I worked for like Hot Topic for about 7 years. My store was apparently the Juggalo store of the district, and I think the state. Working for that company as long as I did, I was pretty used to ignoring people's crappy taste, but the Juggalos were different. This is in Central Florida, so it's on average about 90 degrees most days and always humid as hell. These kids were always very overweight, wearing a massive black ICP tee, those ridiculous 30-pound black trip pants with huge pockets and all the hardware chains and straps hanging from them, and they were drenched in sweat. Their hygiene was almost always awful. They always seemed to show whenever a new ICP shirt or collectible would arrive and would smell up the store and pay in wadded up, sweat-soaked money. It was just all around unpleasant. The smell would linger for a bit after they left. It was not pleasant. This is my time to shine. I was helping a lady at the Disney section. She was pretty particular about the things she wanted and was asking if they looked okay enough for her. Being my first job, I was really enthusiastic about being a salesperson, and I really do love Disney. So I was hyping her up the best I could, and we're laughing together, getting along really well. Then she says, yeah, I wanted to get all the same things my boyfriend's baby mama has. Is that weird? Literally did not know how to respond. I said it wasn't and cashed her out quick. This was my first job in my college town, and generally, I absolutely loved it. You're treated like some super cool mini celebrity by all the little mall rats. The management was generally great to their employees, and the work wasn't too hard in my small, low-volume store. However, there was the issue of Valentine's Day. That year, they were promoting all these different corsets and lingerie, as well as the Get in Our Pants campaign for the skinny jeans. Management wanted the employees to try and show the corsets not just as lingerie, but as fashion items, maybe paired with the skinny jeans. Increase sales and all. So, there I am, Valentine's Day. In a black corset and tight black skinny jeans and boots. Way more sexy than 18-year-old me with a still developing body was comfortable with. In comes Creepy McCreeper, a 50-plus something dude who says he wants to buy something for his wife, but wants some help picking it out. Not once did his eyes look at my face. The entire time I'm helping him, he's staring at my ass or chest and making weird comments about how I remind him of his daughter, or being uncomfortably comfortable telling me explicit details about his wife's body. He then asked me to try it on and show him so he could see how it would look on his wife. Luckily, shy 18-year-old me awkwardly laughed it off and got him past the register and out of the store. I love that job, but Jesus, did it draw some weirdos. My sister worked at one for a little while. One day, 2 grown men were fighting over a pop, like a legit fight. She said it was like the comic book guy from The Simpsons fighting another comic book guy from The Simpsons. My sister called mall security and noped the hell out of their way. Neither one of them got the pop. My sister had to put all the stuff back that they knocked over. I didn't work there very long, but I remember on my second day of the job, a lady came in looking for something to buy her daughter. Told me she was a fan of Janis Joplin, Jimi Hendrix, that kind of stuff. So I walked around with her for maybe an hour, showing her all sorts of things she might like. This was back when Hot Topic was more music oriented in the early 2000s. Twice. We picked out a few really awesome things I thought she might like. And then the mom spotted a Marilyn Manson miniskirt. After hearing how her daughter dressed and what kind of music she listened to for upwards of an hour, I tried to tell the mom that her daughter probably wouldn't like that skirt. But she insisted and ended up getting only the skirt. It was my first retail job. Something inside me died a little that day. I worked in a Hot Topic in a small town where it was really controversial for the store to be moving in. I worked there about 6 months after it opened, and we saw a lot of older folks eyeing us in the store as they walked by. One time, this high school girl was in buying a band tee, and as she was checking out, her grandma came in yelling something about devil worship, then proceeded to fall to the floor, speaking in tongues. Security was called. Last summer in the evening, 3 guys came in to harass me. I'm a female, and I was working alone because we weren't expected to make enough that day to justify having more than one person working. One of the 3 guys who came in stood back by our jewelry thing and claimed that someone from Spencer's had sent them there to ask for our advice for peeing on a girl during sex. At this point, the other 2 were laughing their asses off. And I was immensely uncomfortable, but because who knows what their intentions were. I had to try to be polite because the last thing I needed was for them to call corporate and make a complaint. All the while, there were 2 other guys up by the front counter who were looking at the new pop releases for the day, who watched the entire thing go down and not say anything, but expressed that the situation was messed up after those 3 left. The whole night, I was paranoid to do my bank deposit because I wasn't sure if those 3 would still be in the mall, and I called up an old coworker of mine to walk with me. Honestly, I don't have a problem when customers are genuinely looking for some weird shit, but that was straight up harassment. I didn't work there for a long time because I was seasonal, but let me say, working at Hot Topic in a more southern conservative areas, well, an experience. We had a huge Harry Potter sale, and management had us dress in house colors the whole 9 yards. Well, the sale was during a weekend, so we had a bunch of kids coming in to spend their allowance or whatever on a band tee or chain wallets and pops. One lady came in, looked me up and down, and told me I needed Jesus. I get it. I work at Hot Topic. Parents come in all the time and like to tell me how I'm going to hell for pushing my satanic beliefs on their little angels. She didn't stop, though. She kept telling me that God would smite me and she hopes I burn in hell. When I tried to defuse the situation and ask why she thought I should go to hell, she said, "What, are you retarded? Harry Potter is witchcraft and everyone in here is going to burn in hell." Needless to say, she was escorted out, and later on her oldest son came in and had to apologize for his mother's radical behavior. Oh, buddy, I have 8 years of stories that I can tell. Mostly the job was great. I loved most of my customers and my employees. My managers would vary on the years. One customer liked to get too friendly with the girls, most of which were under 18, and he was nearing 50, and I'd have to send them to the back so he wouldn't try to touch them. Another guy that was known to be a shoplifter around the mall came in one day and stole from me. One of my cool customers chased after him and didn't get the stuff back, but did yell at security at being awful. I also got into yelling matches with the lazy mall security because they wouldn't do shit about this guy because they didn't see him steal, even though everyone else did. My first district manager was flat out cruel. When she left the company and came to the store to shop, I started having an anxiety attack because the back room was a mess. It was the holiday. We were understaffed, and I thought she would write me up for it. I had men tell me about their Jacob's ladder piercings and had them ask if I could size that jewelry, which I quickly shot down. There was one guy who smelled so bad that we'd have to Febreze the store after he left, and it would still smell like death. There's so many more. People fighting on Black Friday, women telling me I had childbearing hips and I should have kids already. And the one time, some lady came in to return a Christmas gift for her daughter, and I asked if her kid would like something else. Her response, my daughter passed away on Christmas, which was heartbreaking. Oh man, it's my time to shine. I worked at Hot Topic for 4 years, so I have several. One, this one happened when they first released their jean brand. They had sent us all sorts of signage for the promo sale and were holding a store contest among the districts for who could sell the most jeans for the month. I don't remember what the prize was, but my manager was really determined to win, so he made it. So we all had to wear the jeans during our shift. Okay, fine, not a problem. The catch was he picked them out, and he always chose super skinny, tight ones. All of us employees were underage girls, oldest being 18. And on top of that, he made stickers and buttons for the promotion on his own dime that said, "Ask me how to get into my pants." You can imagine how that turned out. 2, had a chick straight up take a shit in the dressing room. Our store is one of the smallest, and there's never a point at which someone could be out of your sight, and there was only one dressing room. So I knew exactly who did it. I let her in to try on Halloween costumes and noticed she didn't bring anything out with her. Um, so, as per protocol, I went in to see if the merchandise was in there, and I walked into a huge pile of shit smeared all over the merchandise and mirror walls. It was fucking gross. My manager tried to make me clean it up. We couldn't even really do anything about it either. We asked her about it, and she insisted she didn't do it. 3, a couple and their baby came in one day. It was a busy day, but I recognized the chick because she was a well-known local stripper who would frequently come in an hour before closing and spend hundreds of dollars on random shit while she was strung out and then try to return it. Clearly worn and used a few days later. Anyways, this time she was there with her boyfriend, I'm assuming, and they were walking around arguing and fighting about something. She ended up leaving, and shortly after he followed. Not too long after that, the store is empty, and I start hearing a baby. Sure enough, these people left their infant in his car seat on the damn floor. We called the police, obviously, but they returned not long after that for the baby.
Wow, this question was made for me. I've worked in Hot Topic for 3 years. I'm 8-time Employee of the Month and really well liked by most customers at my location. So much so that I'll be eating in the food court and people will come up to me and ask if I'm the Hot Topic girl. Anyways, one day I was working a shift with one of the assistant store managers. It was an incredibly slow day, and we were just tidying up the store while chatting about our pets. Since there wasn't much to do, my boss thought it was a perfect time for a break, so I had the floor to myself. Our location is small, and usually this is fun for me because I get to help all customers that come in. However, right as he leaves, we have the nastiest, rudest two women come in. They charge right up to me and begin screaming at me in a Chinese language. I'm unsure if it was Mandarin or Cantonese. Note, I'm half Japanese, half white, but people often think I'm just white. So, cut back to the story. These two women are screaming at me. I calmly tell them I have no idea what they're trying to tell me, as I only speak English and the tiniest bit of French. The one woman just starts shouting return as close to my face as possible. So I ask for her receipt. No receipt. If they don't have a receipt, we have to ask if they have a points account so we can see previous purchases and make sure they did buy this shirt within the last 30 days. So I ask if they have a phone number or email with us. One is still screaming in her language at me, and the other woman says I'm trying to steal her information. I explained that I just want to see when the shirt was purchased. The absolutely no English speaking woman pulled a different receipt from her purse and shoved it into my hands. The shirt in question wasn't even on the receipt, and the receipt was from October. This happened in February. I explained this to them and say they have 30 days, not multiple months, and the woman decides to say, I don't know how the store works, and she's done it before. I decide to at least take a look at the shirt she was trying to return. It was a Pickle Rick shirt that had no tag, not one but multiple stains on it, and was oddly warm. I explained it needs to be unwashed, unworn, and have the tag still on it to be able to be returned, and the woman says, "Yeah, no washed," as if I couldn't tell from all the stains. I tell them I won't be doing the return as if I had returned it. I'd get some serious questioning from the store manager and the ASMs. They leave and come back in about 10 minutes, right after the ASM comes back from his break. They begin to scream at him in their language, too. He is white, doesn't look remotely Asian at all. So at this point, we were both kind of like, what the heck? I explained to him the situation, and he agrees that we can't return the shirt. The woman then smacks me with the receipt she had and begins screaming in my face in her language. The other woman says we are too rude and should be fired. I decide enough's enough and will call security. I'm waiting for them to pick up, and my boss says, let's just do the return. Then he retracts that idea once he sees the shirt. It was honestly gross. So he explains that the shirt needs to be unworn, unwashed, and have the tags still on. The woman again says it wasn't washed. The other woman, who spoke no English, shoves my boss and screams more. My boss is the nicest person. Like, people are rude to him all the time, and he still gives them service with a smile, but will tell us his tale of woe afterwards, so he just kindly refuses to do their transaction. At this point, I call security again, but nobody was answering the phone. So we ask them to leave the store. They do, surprisingly. Then, maybe 5 minutes later, they come back with a woman from Michael Hill, a fancy jewelry store, who basically was trying to act as their translator with some obviously made-up story that they were vacationing in Canada and there was no way she could be bought the shirt in October because they had only been there a week. I asked how she had a receipt from our location from October, and she ignored my question and just argued with the store manager over the return in question. After guilt-tripping him and offering him a discount on rings if he ever needed one, she convinced him to do the return. At this point, I walked away from the cash because we had other customers. As I was talking to one of our regulars, they were leaving. The one woman who didn't speak a word of English pushed me on her way out. Had I not been at work, I seriously would have considered punching her. But this customer, who happens to think I'm one of the kindest and most helpful associates we have, gets fired up from this and begins telling them how rude it was and how they can't go around shoving people. They make the rude blah 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 hand motion to him and smirk at me. Nice customer feels badly for me and says he doesn't know how I deal with stuff like that.